Hey there, Happy New Year. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. For our next story, we're going to go out to Fort Worth, and we're going to have a chat here, because I want to hear what you think on whether or not this is a justifiable shot. It's East Fort Worth, where 121 kind of juts out of 820 there. What is that, Trinity? What was the name of that road right there? Trinity something? Yeah, Trinity Boulevard, 820 and Trinity Boulevard. The neighborhood that's just to the east of there, Lakes River Trails South. I mean, it is just right down from River Trails Elementary, if you know where that's at. Nice little neighborhood. This is not a rundown slum. I mean, these aren't giant soaring mansions, but it looks like a place where you don't normally see murders. And I don't know what the past is on this couple. I don't know if they have been in fights before. I imagine this was not their first argument. And I also imagine this isn't the first time it's escalated into something physical. But the details on this have me thinking, like doing the chin rub, like, Because what happened here is we have the guy that got shot, got in an argument. Wifey goes in the bathroom, locks the door. He forces his way into the bathroom, and he gets shot. Now, Fort Worth police are investigating the incident. We don't have any charges that are filed as of, when I check this out on WFAA.com. The only thing that we've learned here is that they were getting divorced. They were in the process of getting divorced, but they were still living in the same house. Jeepers. I wonder why it wasn't working out. So this is a story that is really dependent on a few variables here. I imagine if it was reversed, there would be a little less sympathy, and rightfully so. Why would a man have to shoot a woman that busts in the bathroom? Is he really fearing for his life? Is lethal force absolutely necessary to protect himself from his little wife? But in this situation, maybe this is a justified shot. Officers responded to the shooting call around 1 o'clock yesterday morning. So someone made it about 1 hour into 2025 before police showed up and found his body. And this is that's a tough way to start the year, but I think I'm okay with this shot. If you're a wife and you have an abusive husband and things are escalating, you grab a gun and you go sit in the bathroom. Now, why would she do that if she hadn't been hit before? Why would she do that if she had never experienced any level of abuse? Now, I still think that it's a justifiable shot, even if she had never experienced a history of violence from this guy. Because, the forcible entry, the impending divorce, God knows the threats that this guy was verbally saying to her. I think this one's all right. I think if you're a woman and you lock yourself in the bathroom and you're a estranged husband, technically husband, but they're in the process of getting a divorce, physically overcomes the barrier that you've put between them. Take a shot. I think I'm okay with that. Now, there's another lesson here. And that what happens if this woman doesn't have a gun? What happens if this woman follows the ethos of so many people in the media who thinks guns are scary and we've got to get guns out of the community and we've got to get rid of our love affair with guns, and guns are bad and you shouldn't have one in the home, and if you do have one in the home, it needs to be unloaded and dismantled in 8 different places behind lock and key. If there was a gun safe that had a combo, would this woman still be alive? If she had to have this gun disassembled with the bullets in a different room, like they've had rules like that in Chicago and D.C. I think most of that got overturned with the Heller decision. Would she still be alive, or would she be the dead one? Would police be coming to pick up her body? Now, we don't know the answer to that. This is all hypothetical, but let this stand as a testament that the great equalizer in the disparity between the genders, and yes, there is one, the great equalizer is always going to be guns. Do you want a 115-pound woman to be able to defend herself against a 200-pound man or not? If the answer is yes, then you're pro-gun. That's how you do it. You don't do it with strong words. You don't do it with pepper spray. You don't do it with a whistle. You don't do it by getting out your phone and calling 911. Ladies, if you think that your life is under threat, if you don't want to end up on the wrong end of that police call, you probably need to get a gun. If you have made some mistakes in the men that you have chosen in your life to associate yourself with, some of them turned out to be not so nice, some of them turned out to be violent, you might want to get yourself a gun. If you want the headline to read, man dies after being shot by his estranged wife, and not wife dies after being strangled by her estranged husband, you might want to get yourself a gun. Now, this is a situation that also isn't fitting the narrative, or else this is a really compelling story. This is a really important story for people to see. This is an important story for people to see on both sides of the issue. Number one, it's great for women to see, hey, if you're really worried about being protected, if you're really worried about your safety, I know that you're so scared that you had to shave your head and swear off sex, and now you're going to be turned into Handmaid's Tale, and people are going to try and put you in a nun's habit and seize all the fertile wombs of America. If you really think we are falling into a Christo-fascist patriarchy dystopian future, wouldn't you want to get yourself a gun? And also, this is a great story to highlight for the other side, for all the guys out there. You get so thrown up in a fit of rage that you have to punch a woman. You get so thrown up, you are in so little control of your emotions that you can be drawn to a level of anger where you would harm the woman you married. Didn't you kind of, make some vows in front of God and family and everybody that you would love her and protect her for the rest of your life? You keep fooling around like that, you're going to get yourself shot. Hitting a woman is not just morally reprehensible. It doesn't just make you a disgusting human being. It can also make you room temperature. And that's a more effective deterrent against female violence than any PSA or lecture from Rachel Maddow or ABC After School Special or any of those Netflix shows where men are evil. And it's a fun paradox that you live in right now. You have the same people that are saying men are evil. We have a problem with toxic masculinity. Violence against women is going unchecked, and it's encouraged and even celebrated by the powers that be. Team Red just got in there. They hate women. There's a war on women. They're misogynists. Grab them by the pee. The Hollywood Access tapes. All the abuses that Brett Kavanaugh did and Pete Hegseth did and Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll and all that good stuff. Well, why wouldn't you want these ladies to have a gun? Why wouldn't you be encouraging female gun ownership? If you really thought that was the lay of the land in America in 2025 now, that feels good to say, you would start a charity that would buy handguns for underprivileged women, for women in low-income communities. If that's really how you thought, if you really thought that we're all just a bunch of bloodthirsty, foaming in the mouth, rabid, Team Red, MAGA hat wearing women abusers, wouldn't you be supportive of the only tool that allows you to fight back? That allows you some semblance of actual physical equality? No. Not redoing Ghostbusters as women. That's not women empowerment. Smith & Wesson Bodyguard is female empowerment. You understand that? Having a man dress up as a woman and do boxing in the Olympics is not female empowerment. Being able to work the slide on a 9mm, take the safety off, and end the abuser that's coming at you, that's female empowerment. Where are you at on this one, feminists? Where are you at on that one? You just want people to shave their head and swear off sex? You don't actually want them to be safe? You don't actually want them to be able to defend themselves? You don't actually want them to be equal when it comes to physical confrontations, which is always the last resort in the animal kingdom, which you can't deny we live in? I love stories like this. Well, James, isn't it kind of sad that a wife shot herself? Yes, I wish the marriage had worked out. They lived happily ever after, and they were a wonderful couple, and they had beautiful kids, and they built the castle, and they called it Camelot. But there's going to be bad people out there. There's going to be marriages. People are going to make mistakes. If you're not one of those people, we're the lucky ones. And if that's my daughter, I want her to have a gun. If that's my sister that's being beat up by the husband that she's trying to get divorced from, I would prefer for her to have a gun. And it's not fun. I don't celebrate the fact that she had to shoot him. That's going to be a horrible nightmare that she's going to be living through for the rest of her life. But you know what? It's better than being dead. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Boy, the stories that they choose to promote and the ones that they choose to bury. It's real dastardly stuff, isn't it? Coming up next, we're looking at the... Okay, I got it. Coming up next, we're going to talk about this story I found where there's a lot of restaurant chain bankruptcies, and we've seen a few of these fall off over the years, but we're expecting quite a few more in 2025. So is your favorite restaurant chain going to go away? We'll talk about that with Nick Neonakis, who's been on the show before, who helps companies do such things. He's in the restaurant industry. But I look back at the restaurants that go away, and for a lot of these, there's a reason they went away, and they didn't even have to do anything bad. It's just some other company comes in and does it better. But I do miss some of the old ones. Like, I remember Mr. Gaddy's used to be everywhere, and I don't think it's out of business. But where did that go? I miss that. There's a Mr. Gaddy's near one. I think there's one Ponchos left. I was the only guy who liked Ponchos. Me. I think my mom liked Ponchos too. It was all the chili rellenos. I looked it up the other day. There's one Bennigan's left. Did you know there's still a Bennigan's? It's in like Aurora, Illinois, and it was the first one. And when the whole thing went bankrupt, a bunch of I don't know how I got saved. Some money and interest came in and just bought the whole thing for like $1. The intellectual property or whatever. I think there's just still one open. I think there's one Blockbuster still open too. So, yeah, we limit these things like, oh, it's so sad that Radio Shack's gone away, or oh, it's so sad that Fry's have gone away. It went away because we stopped going there. You understand that? When like your favorite restaurant closes, it's because we stopped going there. You just like the nostalgia of it. So I love the creative destruction. I would just like to see where it's going. We'll talk about that coming up next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Are we going to have to do something about electric vehicles now? We've been subsidizing our own deaths. Maybe if we had just stuck with the good old gas vehicles, we wouldn't be in this situation. I'm kidding. I'm sure that's just a terrible coincidence that both of the trucks used in the terror attacks yesterday were electric vehicles. But you know what? It's always a good time to get caught up on what's going on with the world's most precious commodity, oil. Back on the James Show, RT Trevino from the Crude Truth. Welcome back to the James Show, sir. Good to have you back on.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. Happy New Year to you and all your new listeners out there.
Well, I'm glad to have you on because I actually get to talk about some good news for the first time this year, and that's gas prices. Gas prices are down. That's pretty good. What's going on, and will they go down even further, RT?
You know, a lot of individuals out there do see us averaging about $2.50 this coming year at the gas pump across America. I know here in North Texas, I think we're averaging about $2.80 right now. And with our next administration, President Biden coming into office with his drill baby drill, I do see us being more friendly to the industry, and I see more regulations being cut and removed, and that red tape being removed so that we can get back to business as usual, and most importantly, get this economy back on track.
So let's talk about the rules that are changing. There was sort of a freeze on new drilling on federal lands. So we're kind of behind schedule. Are we still going to have a dip in production because we weren't able to poke holes on a regular basis for the last 4 years?
Well, you know, we don't have a necessarily dip in production. What we have is a dip in new drilling and new production. We have only continued to make record amount of oil every month during the Biden administration. We are the number one producer in the world right now. However, globally, we are at a major shortage globally of oil in reserves. And so that is something that we need to work on. We need to get some federal land open up in Alaska and in the Gulf of Mexico, because the only two things that can really tip the price of a barrel of oil is OPEC and the production in the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, let's talk about our competition, because the two biggest other oil producing regions have a lot of geopolitical conflict right now. We're talking Russia and the Middle East, and it seems like just a couple of events that are not like unlikely to happen. They're possible, could really have some convulsions in the oil market. Are we ready for something like that?
You know, unfortunately, what happens in the Middle East and in Russia, we can't control. And the price of oil, we would see a major change in the price of oil if some horrific catastrophe were to happen. I mean, we've already seen a spike from the horrific acts of terror that have happened here in the United States in the last 48 hours. So, you know, unfortunately, if something were to happen, we would see a major change in that price. Right now, OPEC seems very happy where the price of oil is at, and Russia just quit producing or sending natural gas to Ukraine, so they're going to find other ways to sell that natural gas to other individuals across the world.
That's bizarre. So what would happen to the oil industry if we merged with Canada? That's been a topic that we've been giggling about on the James Show the last couple of weeks. But there's a lot of oil that crosses that border.
That's correct. And one way that we could really benefit would be from the Keystone Pipeline getting completed. That would be roughly a conservative estimate of 800,000 barrels of oil a day once at full production. That would replace the Iranian oil that's already on the market today once hopefully President Trump adds new sanctions back to Iran. So that would be a positive there. And if we could ever actually work out a good deal with Mexico, we could be a very, very strong player as a group to battle the price with OPEC and other nations.
All right, RT Trevino, I'm going to tap into your oil field experience here. In the opening of the Beverly Hillbillies, the legend is that he was shooting at some food and he shocked the ground and oil came up. Is it possible for you to shoot a big enough gun into the ground that oil could pop up?
I love that. You know what? I'm sure somewhere, somehow, one day we could. But, there are very many talks back in the day that the Indians used to talk about lakes of fire, and it's coming back to prove that those lakes of fire were probably pits of oil that had come up above the ground.
Yeah, we've had tar pits.
Naturally does rise. Yeah, so oil naturally does rise to the top. It just takes millions of years.
So maybe it's not just a clever song. Maybe it's not a myth. Maybe it's a legend. Thank you very much, RT Trevino. What's going on the Crude Truth podcast?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking. We've had on some phenomenal guests to end out the year. We actually talk about Canada and Mexico and the United States with an episode I just got done doing with the former Land Commissioner George P. Bush and Texas President of the Texas Alliance of Energy Producers, Carr Ingham, about what kind of measures we could see there and how the new Department of Energy, Chris Wright, is really going to just shake things up here with the Trump administration.
Well, if y'all are looking for more, like international experts in the oil and gas field, Hunter Biden has gotten those jobs before. He'd probably be a good guest for your show. He knows a lot, apparently, because he made millions of dollars doing it. Just throwing in some jokes there. Thank you very much, RT.
Thank you, James. Have a good one, and Happy New Year and successful 2025.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, too. That's RT Trevino. You can find him. He's an oil and gas expert at Pecos Country Energy, but he does a good little podcast called The Crude Truth. Go check that out if oil is your bag. Coming up next, I have some new evidence that just keeps being unfolded by the hour here on the two terror attacks that happened on New Year's Day, the one in New Orleans and the one in Las Vegas. I'm asking you, are we about to have another one? Did both of these just happen and then it's done? Or are we going to see a series of these continuing as we go along? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. Well, 2025, some restaurants are going to go away. And I know that's something that happens every year. But, this level of creative destruction is just something that's a part of the business evolutionary cycle. And we were sort of lamenting some of the restaurants that have gone by the wayside. Who was that said, was that on Twitter? Someone said that they miss El Chico, too. Hang on a second. El Chico's still around. They're only down to 13 locations. I had to look it up because we used to have El Chico's in my hometown in Bug Tussle. I think we had 2, and we don't have any now. So it's really receded from its zenith, but I think we still have a few left. My next guest, though, he's an expert on franchises. He's a franchise consultant. Nick Neonakis is coming back on the James Show. Welcome back. Happy New Year. And let's talk about some of the... Thank you. Studio's happy to see you, Nick. Let's talk about some of the restaurant chains that are going away.
You bet. Well, Happy New Year, James, and thanks to all your great listeners. You look at last year and iconic brands like Red Lobster, Buca de Beppo, Rubio's Coastal Grill, some very large franchisees of Arby's, KFC, Taco Bell, all went under. And the challenges that we had over the last couple of years with prices, whether it's labor, food, rent, have really started to take a toll. And all the companies that are still existing have gone through that desert. So they're all hurting right now.
So like Arby's is like emerging out of bankruptcy or something?
No, it's franchisees.
Okay.
You think of some of these very large, like hundreds of units that have gone under, and it's very challenging.
Yeah,
not Arby's parent. Large franchisees.
I've always been impressed with the companies like McDonald's and Starbucks, where it's like, bro, how many locations could you possibly support? And then they find a way to keep growing.
We love our fast food, right? The United States, they say it runs on Dunkin'. It really runs on fast food. And so there's always going to be a need. We got to eat 3 times a day, sometimes more. And so that's always going to be a fact of life. So as ones go out, there'll be ones that come in. And, make no mistake about it, Starbucks closes locations, McDonald's closes locations, but not in a wholesale large format fashion like a Buco de Beppo or a Red Lobster.
Okay, so who do you think is going to be the next big one to fall?
That's a tough one, man. That starts getting lawyers making phone calls threatening me. But I would say if you take a look at the ones that went out of business in the last year or two, their contemporaries are going to be facing the same pressures that they did. And so that's where, people are keeping a very close eye on chains that have a lot of employees. If you need 50, 60, 70 employees to run a business, think about what your labor costs look like. If you need a large format restaurant to do your business in, 5, 6, 7,000 square feet, you've got a lot of overhead, and that really starts chopping away at the bottom line. If you've got a very varied menu, you're selling lots of different food items. Maybe you're not selling all of them all the time, but you need to keep them all fresh and in stock. Your food prices are starting to hit you really hard. So these are the kinds of ones that you want to just take a real close look at.
Well, I look at a good example is Red Lobster. It collapsed recently. They've always had the same amount of staff. They've always been focused on that little narrow genre of seafood. What changed in the last few years after decades of success?
Price of seafood went through the roof. Labor rates went through the roof. And those two things really crushed them. You start getting states like California mandating a minimum wage of $20 an hour for fast food workers. And that really takes a huge net bite out of the bottom line. That's what's changed.
Yeah, and people don't at me. I know there's still some Red Lobsters over, but it was a famous bankruptcy, and then some of them got swooped in and saved. The other question I have about 2025 is, which ones do you think are going to do the opposite? What's going to be the new big breakout chain? Because, like 10 years ago, we didn't have Raising Cane's everywhere. 10 years ago, we didn't have In-N-Out Burger everywhere. What's the next one?
Think about Raising Cane's and In-N-Out Burger. Simple menus done well. People love their favorites. So if there's a group out there that's doing a great job of things that people like, and with an orientation towards healthy, not like vegan healthy, but it's not really terribly bad for you. Those are the ones that are going to do well. There's a company called Mahana Fresh that has a healthy fast bowls option, kind of like Chipotle. And they recently signed Kyle Kuzma from the Washington Wizards, the basketball player, as their endorser. And they've done a tremendous business because of that. Affordable food, smaller format, 2,000 square feet to put it into, don't need a ton of employees, and they sell food that people like to eat and keep coming back for. So companies like that. Another one would be like Teriyaki Madness that does a Seattle-style Asian chicken bowl. Simple stuff. Think of Raising Cane's, but with rice underneath it.
Yeah, like a payway.
You can go and eat several times a week. Yeah, bingo, exactly.
Well, look, and that's my next question too. Is we have an awesome fast food chain for most genres of food. We got the American burger thing covered. We have the Payways and Panda Express for Chinese food. Of course, Taco Bell and 28 other Mexican food. When are we going to get a solid chain for Indian food?
It's funny. I was going to say, watch some of the ethnic breakouts coming down the line. The Indian community is so powerful. 70% of all hotels are owned by people from Indian heritage. In fact, one of my companies, Franchise Journal, launched in August the Indian Heritage Month to celebrate all of the amazing accomplishments of this community. And there are a number of smaller QSRs that are focusing on Indian food. They're owned by Indian Americans. And I think you're going to start seeing that being more and more prevalent.
Yeah, Indians, I love your food. Masala, tadka, paneer. I don't even know what this stuff is, but it's delicious. All right. Thank you very much for your insight on some of this, Nick Neonakis. Where do they find your work outside of WBAP?
Well, if any of your listeners, I love what you do, man. And if any of your listeners would like a copy of the number one selling book, The Franchise MBA, just text the word franchise to 26786. That's 26786, the word franchise, and we'll send them a copy of the Franchise MBA. It's got all kinds of information about the economy, about franchising, about businesses, and it's my gift to all of your awesome listeners for a very happy new year.
I like the sound of that because I want a James Show small business owner to take his business and blow it up, get like 100 locations, and then go public and cash out on the IPO and then share some of that money with me.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
If you have a business that you want to franchise, reach out to us. We've got an entire team of people that can analyze it free of charge. And James, you can be the celebrity endorser. How about that?
Yeah, no, that was the whole point. I'm not really concerned about their success. I just need more advertisers is kind of what I'm going for. All right, thanks. There's Nick Neonakis. Coming up next, I'm sorry to do this. We have to go back. There's some new information that came out about the terror attacks in New Orleans and Las Vegas. I'll get you all caught up coming up. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I consider myself a pretty good employee. I work hard around here. Are y'all trying to tell me something, Garrett? Because on the rundown, it says I'm supposed to talk to Julie Balke about being late to work and how it's really important to be on time to work. And, I think they may be talking about me, Julie. Welcome back to the show.
Uh-oh. What generation are you?
I am the youngest Gen Xer or the oldest millennial. I was born in 77.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So this complaint that employers are having applies specifically to Gen Z and their belief that 10 minutes late equals on time. And those of us who aren't Gen Z are having a little bit of trouble with that.
Well, I think that might just be the age because when I was younger, I was late to work all the time. And as I got older and more mature, I just got a little better with time management. And I'm really not that bad anymore. Am I, Bruce? Am I that bad? How much of this is just age related is what I'm saying. There's
certainly a part of it that is. And there's also a part of it that this COVID period we went through, we really got lax on a lot of things. Clothing, maybe how we talk to each other. And it's natural that being on time became a part of that because you'd be sitting on a Zoom call and eventually everybody would show up, which is a whole different atmosphere that if you're sitting in a conference room, 10 people are there, the 11th one isn't yet. And so part of how we learned was if we did walk in late, we got the death stare. We figured out pretty quickly that wasn't okay. And so I believe a lot of what we learn about professionalism comes from just osmosis, from being around people and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. And then we adjust our behavior accordingly. And so Gen Z's kind of lax attitude about being on time, unfortunately, according to this study anyway, is translating over also to meeting deadlines. Not just being on time, but actually meeting deadlines. I think that's where it really starts to impact your career instead of just, we can let this one slide.
Well, this isn't something that can be solved by like a company policy or some legislative reform. And this is a cultural issue. And yeah. I think this dovetails nicely with the recurring argument I have on this show that we don't take schooling seriously enough for our kids, because I broke down my kid's school schedule. Out of the 41 weeks in the school year, they only go Monday through Friday the entire day, 21 of those weeks. And, it's kind of nice to have all these days off for a half day or, President's Day and all these holidays and whatnot. But I think we're teaching our kids that that's not important. Like school's not so important that you go, even if it's raining really hard, you still go to school.
Yeah, and that's a part of that is too parents' insistence on getting in the middle of it. Well, wait a minute. Joey turned his paper in 3 days late. Why are you docking his grade? He was tired. And so I think parents, in a lot of cases, are so helicoptery that they don't also don't hold their kids to those standards at home. And then when the schools sometimes try to do that, they call the principal or they show up, and so I do think this is another symptom of really the way we have made boundaries and deadlines instead of hard and fast times and dates.
If you're an employer, how do you tighten this up at your workplace without looking like a tyrant?
Well, the first thing, I think if you've got somebody that's consistently late to meetings, don't ever, keep the meeting going. Start on time, keep the meeting going. Most people, and don't give them the information they missed. Most people will pretty much figure out fairly quickly that if you're going to be a part of a team, you have to get the same information everyone else does. When someone misses a deadline, or when you say, I need this by Friday, you may want to add on to that because we owe it to the customer by Tuesday at noon, and I want time to review it. So putting reasoning behind it. This whole because I said so is really, really not working with Gen Z. And so if you want to adjust it a little bit, explain why. And that way, if I just didn't get around to it and I turn it in on Monday, I understand that not only am I potentially causing problems for my colleagues and our customers, but at a certain point, you will become known as unreliable, and then you will not get those opportunities, those cool projects, those opportunities with those great customers because you've shown to be non-trustworthy.
So, Julie, I don't think I'm nice enough to be a boss. Like, luckily, I'm not a boss around here or at any of my positions, because if an underling, like if I told them to do something and they're like, why should I do this? I'd be like, because it's really expensive to fire you and rehire you and retrain a new person. That's why. This whole reasoning stuff, you people are too nice. All right, Julie Balke, real quick, I'm sure a whole lot of people listening right now, one of their New Year's resolutions is to get a promotion or to get a new job or to jumpstart their career, to climb the ladder. You're a career coach. How do they do that?
You can either follow me as Julie on the Job on Instagram or TikTok. You can also check out our website where we will coach you to figure out what is your next best step and then help you put together a plan and go get it.
All right, there she is, Julie Balke from the Balke Group. I appreciate your time on the James Show yet again. Happy New Year. All right, coming up next, why is Dallas spending your money to have an app for cell phone security? Is that in the jurisdiction of the nearest municipality? Does Prosper need to get an app too? Do we need to get one for Seagoville? How is this the city's job? And if you can use it anywhere in the world, what is this really for? Are they just collecting your data? Like, why is Dallas supposed to be providing you with cell phone security? This app is suspicious as hell. You'll hear about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You're going to think I'm making this next story up, but there's Dallas, the city of Dallas, spent millions of dollars to develop a free app for cell phone security. Oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would that be the charge of a city to make sure your cell phone has security? So I'm not going to download this thing and put all my info in it. If you've done it, you can call in and tell me how it works. 800-288-9227. I don't get it. And I can't find an answer for it. How is this the city's job? How is this the jurisdiction of your local municipality to make sure your cell phone's safe? Wouldn't that be maybe the charge of, I don't know, Apple, or maybe the provider, AT&T, Android, Google? If they're not taking care of it, then maybe there's a tech firm like a McAfee or some other antivirus, LifeLock, something. But city of Dallas? So it already doesn't make sense. Here's the next part that makes it less believable, but it exists. This isn't just for people who live in the city of Dallas. You can use this whether or not your address is a Dallas address. You can use this if you live in Plano. You can use this if you live in Oklahoma. You can use this if you live in France. Hang on, what's going on? Why is the city of Dallas taxpayers having money taken from them to make sure some dude in France has cell phone security? This really isn't making sense. And so it has been my observation as a talk radio host of over 22 years now that whenever your local government is doing something that doesn't make sense, it's just theft. It's just thinly veiled program that is meant to have money move around. So some of it can be siphoned off to nefarious purposes. And I don't understand how all of this isn't an absolute waste of your scarce taxpayer dollars. Now, that being said, I get that. You get that. Why does it still exist? Well, because who knows about this? Who knows that the city government of Dallas just flushed millions of dollars down the toilet for an app that is none of their business, completely unnecessary, whether even it works properly or not? We don't even have a report on it. I'll go ahead and cut to the chase. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to be like the groundbreaking app that all these other municipalities look at and they're like, oh, what a great job Dallas did. We should do something too. Why would they? You could just use Dallas's. But why is that our job? To make sure all the cell phones on the planet Earth are safe? No. The voters don't know. Voters don't care. The news isn't going to report it to them. The Dallas Morning News isn't going to put it the way I put it. All they're going to tell you is what a big success it is. Or if it folds in a few years, they'll be like, yep, this program folded. That's too bad. Sure was well-intended project. Maybe we can do something else to replace it. But they're not going to say, hey, whoever spent all this money, they need to be kicked out of office. If it was a city manager or if it was someone who was like a project team lead or we had a committee of people to come up with this, they're all fired. That was a terrible idea. It wasted millions of dollars in Dallas. Bad ideas mean no more job. If Mike McCarthy can still be on the hot seat after going, what did he do, 12-5 the last 3 seasons? Why don't we hold these public officials more accountable for wasting millions of your dollars? Are the city councilmen who pushed this, supported the vote, wrote the bill, got it put up to the vote, and put it all in place? Are they going to get any retribution from the voters? Are they going to be punished by angry voters who are like, hey, I can't believe you lied to me about that app. That was a total waste of money. I'm never voting for you again. No, you can go, look, open your window right now, and whoever's walking down the street, just ask them what city councilman's district they live in. 99 out of 100 won't know. There's no accountability for this. They're just going to get away with it. And what's the answer? If everyone thought like me, if everyone thought like you, if everyone listened to WBAP all day, we wouldn't have this problem. I also feel like there wouldn't be nearly as big of a problem if the Dallas Morning News wasn't just a bunch of big government Team Blue hacks and there was some accountability. If we could go back and look at all these other projects where things were promised and then they never delivered, there was some retribution, there was some negative consequences that tied to that. Maybe there would be some disincentive for people to do that in the future, but that never happens. But here's the ugly little secret. While it's quite obvious this app program is just a waste of money, it's just an excuse for them to take money from you and give it to their connected people. Some of it will go back to them. Some of it is going to their donors. Some of it is going to friends or family or cronies. So's DART. That's all DART is. DART is just tens of billions of dollars has been taken from you and filtered through DART. And they'll do the show. They'll run empty trains. They'll run empty buses. They'll do all these terrible programs like for scooters, and everything they do just turns to poo. This bike lane that's right outside of my office, 6 bikes went in it for all of 2024 that I saw with my own eyes. 6. Now, I'm not sitting here staring at it 24 hours a day, but all of these programs, every theater renovation, this whole new convention center, $4 billion of taxpayer theft is all that's happening there. It's just not as obvious as this app story is, but this app story is so obvious. Makes me want to slap myself in the forehead and be like, how do I live in a city this dumb? Because the voters don't care. Voters don't know. Media's not going to tell them. They have no disincentive not to. Well, that's a fun way to start 2025. Come back. We'll do this again tomorrow. I'm going to go put up the podcast after the show. So if you need more James Show action, go find the podcast wherever you already listen to podcasts, WBAP.com or the WBAP app. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.